Let's be honest, we were hoping for a little bit more to work with. But there were some interesting moments in last night's debate. Some of them came from the frontrunners. Here to talk about how the top four represented is our panel.
Team Rising is here. We're joined by reporter for the Daily Caller, Henry Rogers, and Democratic strategist, Michael Starr Hopkins. So, guys, basically, these top four debates, it was particularly interesting. We had Joe Biden, I think he generally maintained, Michael. That's how I saw it. As in any night in which he doesn't have a really bad moment or doesn't take a Kamala-level hit, that he's sitting pretty at the top of the field in the polls.
There
was no blood in his eye.
No record players came up.
No weird record player comment. That's it, though, right?
Yeah.
That's what it takes.
That's the game for him.
29%.
When it comes to Biden, I think the bar is so low that as long as he doesn't trip and fall on his face, then I think it's considered a win for him. But I will say, I think Kamala, she threw punches last night in what has been a campaign that's been barely surviving. I think kind of breathed a new life into itself.
Really?
We'll see. The polls haven't reflected it. But last night she really took a swing, and I think she needed to.
The media liked her. I didn't see that either, but the media did like her performance. And the sort of white liberals who are looking around for who's going to be their candidate pay a lot of attention to that. But I agree with Sagar on Biden. The other media conclusion that I saw this morning was that Biden had a bad night. Look, he is bad in all of these debates. Yeah. He's never had a good debate. He's not a good debater.
Exactly.
But it hasn't mattered. Even when he took that hit from Kamala in the very first debate, maybe he lost a point or two, came right back up. Nope. He did what he needed to do. And so, look, the status quo is good for Joe.
And that's exactly right. I think Biden, if he just continues to do exactly what he's doing and just not mess up, just not have these errors, don't do what you did last night, which was a small error, but it was still an error.
Punching thing, that was weird.
He also called Kamala, or he said he got the support from the only black senator, and he was standing next to Kamala Harris, so it was pretty bizarre. But as long as Biden continues to just not mess up, I think he's going to continue to be the front runner.
That's not sustainable. If you look, Hillary Clinton tried the exact same thing. She tried to do as few media appearances as possible, tried to not do a ton of rallies, and just coast her way into winning it. And
it's
at
not
a certain
sustainable
point,
in it. Here, that's the point.
In the
general election, but that's part of the issue. She got
the nomination.
A lot of name ID. Actually, I got fact checked last night. Biden actually does have just as much support amongst high information voters as he does low information voters. So not only does he have low information voters who are very much on his side, even people who generally follow the debate, he has a lock on that constituency of comfort that wants to return to the Obama era. And that just seems to be enough for them, Michael. And ultimately, I don't think it can be shaken, which is why the rest of the candidates, Bernie and Warren and Buttigieg's performance, in which they didn't go after one another, is baffling. Because you have to fight for everybody else in the debate.
Somebody's got to make something happen.
I think right now Biden's whole thing is I'm the only one that can beat Trump, and the polls reflect that. Now, if there ends up being an alternative, someone else who can beat Trump, and people feel confident,
reflect that.
but they do though in swing states.
Bernie does well in those swing states too.
Democrats are not going to vote for Bernie Sanders at the end of the day. I hear from Democrats who say I will vote for anyone except Bernie.
Which is so ironic because who always gets the question of, are you going to vote for the Democratic nominee? Whoever the Democrat, it's always Bernie Sanders supporters who are accused of being disloyal, et cetera. But when the rubber meets the road, it's the Democratic establishment that we have to worry about defecting to frickin' Mike Bloomberg or Howard Schultz or whatever. I'm serious.
It's true.
That's reality.
He is that kind of outlier candidate that scares Democrats. And normally there are questions about, can we win Republicans? But if Sanders is the nominee, the question is, can we win Democrats?
I don't know, Michael. I don't think there's going to be that much crossover support. Ultimately, whoever the nominee is, I do think they're going to get the majority of it. But I
think you'll have. Here's what I think. I think you'll have the people, the 1% of the Democratic Party who would support a Michael Bloomberg candidacy, who pushed him into the race. Sure, right. I think they may defect, but I actually think Sanders would bring out. First of all, he has more crossover support than Biden does among Trump-Obama voters, and I think he would energize and truly mobilize and bring out new voters who don't normally show up to these things. So I think that makes. And look, in my view, the 1% who's backing Mike Bloomberg can move along. They can do whatever they're going to do. That's fine with me.
I think you're right. And I think the country is so divided right now, though, that the Democrats would probably actually turn out for Bernie
Yeah, I think so
Sanders
too.
because they hate Trump so much.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's the way I look on. That's the way I look at it. Is because there's so much hatred for Trump that people would probably vote for.
Here's the thing, though. I think Bernie did not do a good job last night, and I mean that in that I think he maintained, but you can't maintain when you're number 3. You have to fight, right? Like he didn't go after Elizabeth Warren on Medicare for All. Everybody was expecting it. MSNBC does all disservice by not setting it up, but ultimately it's like, look, man, if they're not going to set it up for you, you got to take it. That's what Trump did all through 2016.
He was so fiery in the last debate.
Yeah, where's that?
And it was great. And his poll numbers when it went up. And then this last night, it was like he was asleep half the time. And
look, I thought he was fine. There were a couple moments I really liked. I really liked when he went after Joe Biden on Iraq. I thought that was his strongest moment of the night. I personally found it very courageous that he turned the conversation intentionally to Israel and Palestine and the dignity of the Palestinian people. Nobody does that. But yeah, he grabbed the mic on Medicare. They weren't even going to ask him about Medicare for All, which is like, what? It's like, so he grabs the mic. He says, I wrote the damn bill. I thought, okay, here we go. Here we go. It's coming. And then, no. Doesn't go after her.
I think there's a worry among Democrats about going negative against other candidates because it's proven kind of devastating that if you go negative on another candidate, I mean, if you look at Castro's numbers, if you look at Kamala's numbers, when she tried to go negative, Delaney went negative and it didn't work out very well for him. There is a fear that if you go negative, that you will be punished by voters. And so
there's a way to do it, I think.
I absolutely think there is. But I think there's so much of a worry that if you get labeled as the negative candidate, that it'll hit your numbers. That
it has to feel, look, Kamala's attack felt too prepared and scripted, and when she had the T-shirts ready and the Instagram, that really, left a sour taste in a lot of people. It felt disingenuous, right? The way Julian did it, and I actually had no problem with how he did it, but it came off as a little overly aggressive, again, a little overly prepared, like we're going to stick it.
When he's like, I am the carrier of the Obama legacy. I was like, hold on a second. All right.
But Sanders knows how to attack because he goes after the press and is combative in interviews. When he thinks you ask him a stupid question, he will let you know about it.
And he's told me personally.
As someone who's been yelled at by Bernie Sanders.
I was like, Henry's been yelled at a lot by him.
So he has it in him, but he does. He needs to make something happen here. Let's talk. Let's take a pause. We got more we're going to talk to on the debates right after this.